is CBS News Miami.
And good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Jim Berry. Welcome to CBS News Miami's 4 p.m. Quickcast. Here's a look at today's top stories. And right off the top, this developing story, new University of Miami quarterback Carson Beck targeted by thieves. The Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office says luxury vehicles owned by him were stolen from outside his home in southwest Miami-Dade. Thieves also made off with a Range Rover belonging to his girlfriend, UM women's basketball player Hannah Cavender. CBS News Miami's Ted Scouten reports from the scene in southwest Miami-Dade.
A University of Miami sports power couple was hit by thieves overnight. Police were outside the home of UM star quarterback Carson Beck and high-profile girlfriend Hannah Cavender, who plays basketball for the University of Miami and has a huge social media following. 3 high-end cars were stolen, including a Mercedes-Benz, Lamborghini, and Land Rover from the couple's home near South Miami. That happened overnight. The Land Rover and Mercedes were both recovered nearby. Beck recently signed a $4 million deal to play for the University of Miami. This comes as other high-profile athletes have been targeted by crooks recently. At this point, police are working the case and not releasing much information. We'll have the latest beginning at 5. Near South Miami, Ted Scouten, CBS News Miami.
Always alerting, always tracking. This is Next Weather.
All right, let's swing outside for a live look outside. A bit cloudy today across South Florida, but still nice and mild. But tonight, get ready to bundle up. Next Weather Chief Meteorologist Ivan Cabrera tells us just how chilly it's going to get.
Yeah, we're going to have to bundle up like we haven't since January. This is 50 stuff coming in tonight. And because we've gotten so used to the humidity and the warmth coming back all of February, it is going to make quite a difference. So get ready. There's that north wind. The front's already through. There's usually a delay with the cold air moving in, but that won't happen. That will happen, I should say, as we head through tonight, and some cloud cover kind of overrunning the boundary there as everything continues pushing off to the south. This is where our weather's coming from. We got a north to northwest wind, and that's going to bring in the cool air that's already taken over the southeastern part of the U.S., including parts of the Panhandle in the 40s and 50s. This is part of that air mass that has been breaking records all over the east, but we're not going to break records. We're going to stay just about right as far as the temperatures. We don't want 30s down in South Florida. 59, I think we'll get close to that at the airport, if not just around 60, and then everybody else will get into the 50s. I'll show you the numbers in a second, but there you see a nice hold as far as where the normal temperature should be for this time of year. We've been well above average in both overnight temperatures and daytime highs, and both of those will be coming down nicely. Comfortable humidity as well, staying in the comfort range, going up a little bit to the early part of next week, but early next week is a different story. We won't have to worry about the humidity. There's that chilly morning for tomorrow, and then we'll turn mild in the afternoon, so it's not going to be cold. You're going to want layers because tomorrow afternoon we'll get back into the mid-70s with a gusty wind. Saturday morning won't be as chilly, but it'll still be a cool morning and another mild afternoon and staying dry for a Saturday. And then Sunday is where we're introducing again some scattered showers beginning to move in ahead of a system that's developing in the Gulf. It's not a question of whether it develops, it will. It's just a question of where it's going to aim its heaviest rainfall. And right now, European models thinking, yeah, South Florida. Monday. This would be Sunday overnight into Monday. That's a lot of rainfall for us. We need the rainfall. We don't need heavy rain in all just 24 hours, but that may linger as we head into the early part of next week. That's about the heaviest rainfall I've seen in the models across South Florida for this year. So we'll get ready for the potential of some significant rainfall there. The details will be ironed out. There are the temperatures. That's the big story for tonight with mid and upper 50s. It is going to be a chilly morning. Numbers I haven't shown you since January because it's just been so mild. 60s out into the Florida Keys, surrounded by the warmer water there, with temperatures again in the 70s. We'll have a mix of sun and clouds early, but the sun will win out, and your next weather 7-day forecast will take us through the Weekend Cancer Challenge, the big ride and run on Saturday. Looks fantastic, and then again, there's that rain chance at 30%. May have to bump that up on Monday, depending on the trends, and you can see the temperatures are holding in the 70s.
Ivan, thank you. A Hungarian national who authorities say overstayed his visa is now charged in 2 brutal murders, one in Little Havana and a second one on Miami Beach. CBS News Miami's Peter Dench has more on what he is learning.
We are learning that the suspect in this case is a Hungarian national who authorities say overstayed his visa. He's now charged with second-degree murder and is connected to 2 different cases. This is a man in custody, 25-year-old Zol Yomi. He is charged with taking the life of 66-year-old Carlos Villaquiran. Police say he was found in late November strangled and in a bathtub at this apartment building on Miami Beach. Police say they discovered text messages between the two men and say they had been intimate. And they say the victim threatened to go to the police because his cell phone and other property had been stolen. Miami police say the suspect is tied to another case 2 months later on January 19th, in which a man's body was discovered in Little Havana with the driver's seat after a car crash, and surveillance tape reportedly showed a thin white male flee. Police reportedly found the suspect's fingerprints in the car. They also say that the suspect is wearing a GPS tracking device. And we'll have much more on the story coming up at 5. In Miami, Peter Dench, CBS News, Miami.
And now at 4, Chopper 4 over the scene of an ICE center in Miramar. That is where police say a person was taken into custody after bringing a package containing a suspicious powder. Well, that set off an evacuation and sent at least one man to the hospital. CBS News Miami's Steve Majuri has more on that.
Miramar police say Hazmat was called after security came in contact with this package and became ill. And this is now a federal investigation since local first responders have left the scene. Now the building has been partially evacuated. Here's an aerial view we got from Chopper 4 earlier this morning. You can see that there are people outside. That could be people that work here or even just people waiting outside to get an appointment. This is at the ICE office just off of Southwest 145th here in Miramar. Miramar police say someone entered the building with a package containing a powdery substance. Hazmat was called and was here for a while and went inside the building, but they've now left. Police say the person that brought the package to the building is now in custody, but police have not said if an arrest has been made. And again, this is a federal investigation since this happened at an ICE office. We are certainly going to keep you updated both on air and online about this. Be sure to tune in at 5 o'clock for the latest on this investigation. In Miramar, Steve Majiri, CBS News, Miami.
All right, Steve, now moving on to Northeast Miami-Dade. Chopper 4 was over the scene after Homeland Security conducted a raid at a luxury home. CBS News Miami's Yvonne Taylor has the latest on what we know about this so far.
This is still an ongoing activity. Federal agents are still here, and they have been here for at least 4 hours. We are across the street from the house where it all happened. This residence is at 22nd Avenue Northeast and 188th Street. Before 9 a.m., HSI agents and K9 units, as you're going to see in the video, were seen entering and leaving the property several times. Nobody else is allowed to come in. For hours, an HSI agent has been guarding the entrance. Unconfirmed sources are saying someone was arrested earlier today. Now, before 11 a.m., some of the vehicles with federal agents whose faces are covered left the house. We reach out to Homeland Security for comments, as well as Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, because we have also seen some other deputies here. Miami-Dade has said that they are assisting in a federal operation. That's how they're labeling it. Now, HSI responded to our calls, and they're saying that this is an ongoing criminal investigation, and that's how they label it, as a criminal investigation. Evidently, we are still at the scene, and as soon as we have more information, we'll have it available for you online as well as on air on CBSMiami.com. In Northeast Miami, Yvonne Taylor, back to you.
All righty, Yvonne, we are learning new details about a shooting that happened last night in the parking lot of an AMC theater in Pembroke Pines. According to investigators, 2 males got into an argument inside the movie theater. The dispute then spilled out to the parking lot, and that's when they both pulled out guns and started shooting. One of them was shot several times and rushed to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police urge anyone with information about this incident to contact them. And police say domestic dispute in Lighthouse Point turned deadly. A man was shot at a home on Northeast 49th Street in the area of 26th Avenue, and he later died at a hospital. Now to the latest on the war of words between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Ukrainian leader unhappy with the Trump administration's stance on how to end Ukraine's 3-year-old war with Russia. Here is CBS News Miami's Natalie Brand.
President Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, retired General Keith Kellogg, met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky Thursday, with a public feud between the U.S. president and Zelensky escalating.
I'd like to find out all the money that we've been sending to Ukraine. Where is it?
President Trump claimed Ukraine talked the U.S. into sending $350 billion for the war with Russia, but government data shows U.S. funding at about $183 billion, the vast majority appropriated by Congress. On social media, Trump also called Zelensky a dictator without elections. In 2019, Zelensky was elected by a landslide. Now elections there are suspended because of the war Russia started. In Kharkiv, Ukrainians defended Zelensky. This woman said, "I support Ukraine. I support our president. What Trump said is nonsense." Following talks this week between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his Russian counterpart, the Trump administration is trying to push back on concerns from European allies that Ukraine has been left out of the negotiations. President Trump's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, appeared on Fox News this morning.
We are consulting our allies. We're consulting the Ukrainians. There's a term for this in diplomacy. It's called shuttle diplomacy, because bringing everybody to the table at once just hasn't worked in the past.
The Trump administration is also pushing Ukraine to sign off on a proposal to give the U.S. access to the country's rare earth minerals. President Zelensky rejected the initial offer, saying it would need to be tied to security guarantees for Ukraine. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
When we come back on the Quickcast, a winter storm smacking parts of the South with a punch some areas are just not used to feeling. Why it has become a cause for concern. We're back on the CBS News Miami's 4 p.m. Quickcast, and now to the situation in Israel and Hamas. Today, there is grief in Israel after Hamas released the bodies of 4 hostages. 3 of them are said to be a mother and her 2 small children. They were taken hostage by Hamas in the terror attack on October 7th. Her husband, the boy's father, was freed earlier this month. CBS News Miami's Deborah Pata has the latest.
Under a grim Gaza sky, 4 coffins on display. Hamas says they are the bodies of Oded Lifshitz and the Bibas family, Shiri, and her 2 young boys, Ariel and Kafir. They were abducted on October 7. Hamas claims they were killed in an Israeli air raid in November 2023. Israel has not officially confirmed their deaths and says it may take as long as 48 hours to identify them. The fragile ceasefire in Gaza began last month and is approaching the final week of the deal's first phase. Negotiations for the second stage are set to begin soon. But for Yael Alexander, the war is far from over. Her son Edan, believed to be the last living American hostage, remains in captivity.
And I'm begging for his life. And this is how you sound when you beg for your son's life.
Originally from New Jersey, Edan volunteered for the Israeli army during a gap year after finishing school and is only due to be released in the second phase. His mother's message for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu: do not stop negotiating now.
Imagine it was you. Imagine you were the father. Your son is held in Gaza tunnels, alive, and still waiting to be released. He's alive. And he's waiting, and they need to do it.
Deborah Patter, CBS News, East Jerusalem.
Well, right now, dozens of schools in North Carolina and Virginia are closed after yesterday's heavy snowstorm, and Kentucky is still feeling the effects of the storm today. In fact, a salt truck overturned on the side of the road in Lexington, and snow-related pileups led to major backups on the interstate highways there. And Virginia Beach got a rare 10 inches of snow. That's the most that region has seen since 2010. In addition to the snow, millions of people in the central United States are suffering from record-breaking cold. Southern states are expected to see wind chill numbers in the teens. That is chilly indeed. That is CBS News Miami's Quickcast. I'm Jim Barry. Stay tuned for more news right here on CBS Miami.